first of many interviews that I'm doing with individuals that I've met from around the world who are experts in their field. Now, Miriam, she is just a beacon of hope and light to so many people. She's overcome so much adversity in her life and trials and tribulations, and she's found a way to deconstruct it so that anybody can apply it to their life. She is an expert in walking her truth, speaking her truth, and authenticity. And this is a very difficult thing to do this day and age because where societal norms are always pushing us to be like everybody else and kind of fit in this box and be this type of person. And when you actually walk your truth and it is who it is that is you, great things start to happen. Everybody's so unique and everybody has so many unique gifts. Now, Miriam's methodology is something that anybody can apply to make sure that they are always being 100% honest with themselves, the people around them, and also it works to help to make sure those around you are going to be completely honest with you. It's phenomenal. So I thought this interview was originally going to be about 20 minutes. It actually went way over, and I was going to chop it down to just give you guys a short, brief version, but I didn't want to water it down. The content is so revolutionary, and I really, really hope that you stick in there, watch the whole entire thing, because there's going to be something that you learn, and it may indeed change your life forever for the better. And it's just really exciting information, very easy to apply. So without further ado, here's Miriam and my interview. Hello, my name is Ian Gray, and I'm here with a dear friend of mine, Mariam Bennani, and she is an amazing healer. I met her in Peru in the Andes Mountains, working with shaman, and she actually knew so much about me and also my wife before she even met either one of us, and she came bearing gifts for us and the other people that were there that were all spot on perfect gifts. It's hard for me to sometimes figure out how to give gifts for my family and friends, and we had never even met, and I think maybe a little bit of correspondence on a Facebook chat, but besides that, you really didn't know much about us, and you somehow pegged us right on, got the perfect gifts for each of us. How do you do this?
I don't know. I think we're all connected. We're all very connected.
Well, today we're going to talk about authenticity and living your truth. And I think that might be a big part of the reason why you have such a great intuition. Before we get on to the topic, though, give us an idea of what gets you out of the bed in the morning. Like what drives you? What's your purpose?
So what really gets me out of bed in the morning is truth. And I've been a seeker of truth for some time now. And it really is something that drives me to continuously grow and evolve, to forever follow and try to uncover my truth.
That's awesome, and that's such a slippery slope because truth can always lead to a lot of success, but sometimes the truth hurts, right?
Yeah. So, yeah, exactly. And I'm really passionate about talking about authenticity because I think a lot of people believe that their truth is like their life purpose, or what is the true me? How am I supposed to contribute to this life? What is my purpose in being here? That's my truth. But the way I've been seeing it in the past couple of years is actually your truth is everything that you are. And sometimes it's looking at yourself and finding truths that you might not be very comfortable with, So to me, living authentically is more about trying to dig and find all of your truths and to be able to shine light on those truths that really don't sit well with you, that you're really not comfortable with, that you try to avoid and you try to escape from, because sometimes our truths can cause really uneasy feelings in us. And I believe that to be really an authentic person, to live from your heart, is really to be able to look at yourself in all the truths that you actually are, without judgment, without judging yourself. So looking at yourself with compassion, with understanding, and being able to shed light and awareness to understand where these truths come from, and use that as a doorway to grow and evolve and move forward. So yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, that's, I guess, let me kind of paraphrase back. Authenticity or truth to you is actually not about necessarily who you are supposed to become or what your purpose is, and that thing that you do. It's actually analyzing who you are right now,
Hmm.
and being able to then be able to have a clear, accurate picture so that you can make changes to become that person that you want to become. Would that be right?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So it's really about um, being open and honest with yourself, first of all, with yourself, and trying to understand the things that trigger you, that cause these uneasy feelings, and shed some awareness on them. So to shed some light on them, to try to be able to understand where they're coming from, but without judgment, of course. And that's what really allows you to kind of um, shift that shadow, if you want, into integrating it within yourself, so that you can live authentically, as and bring in your purpose into this life.
That's beautifully said. So before we get farther into authenticity and how this all works, your favorite question. We actually talked about this a little beforehand. Um, so, what makes you qualified to talk about authenticity?
Okay. So I have to admit that question really triggered me. And yeah, thank you for that. Um, because I, one thing that we really need to kind of navigate through or pay attention to is everything that triggers us, everything that causes an uneasy feeling within us. And these uneasy feelings could be like anger, or feeling like a victim, or feeling or blaming people, or feeling shame, or maybe feeling a sadness. So these are all uneasy emotions that come up, and they're kind of triggering, and kind of poking at you to say, here's something that you need to shed some light on. There's something here. There's a truth that you need to reveal. And so that was one of the questions that really triggered me, because throughout my life, I've always felt like I need to be qualified. I need to be certified. I need to go study an X number of years to be able to come and talk about something as an expert. And I never felt empowered to actually go ahead and just talk about my experience. Something that I'm passionate about talking, a subject that I'm talking about. And from my experience, as a human being, and to share that with people, I never felt that that would qualify me enough to actually share my opinions with someone. Because from what I learned from my society is that you always need to have qualifications, and degrees and certifications, and you need experience, X number of years of experience, to be able to stand up here and share your truth with us. And I asked myself, because that question triggered that, uh, because my initial reaction in my mind was, really? Like, do you really? What do you mean? How am I qualified? That was my reaction. And I realized that I had that belief in me, that that is not necessarily a true belief, that that I need to follow a certain system, a certain number of protocols or certifications to be able to talk about something. And I asked myself, is that really how I truly feel today? If I want to stand up and talk about something that I am passionate about talking about, do I really think that I need all of that? And I said to myself, actually, no, I don't. Being a sovereign human and sharing your experience, sharing something that that it's coming from your heart, and you really want to share this information with the world, is not something that you need permission or certification for, and yeah, it's a lot to do with empowering yourself to share your own truth authentically. So that really triggered me, but thank you for that, because it made me understand that there is a belief behind that, and that's really how I've been trying. I'm still learning how to do this, and it's pretty hard. It's pretty hard because we're trained, like we're all throughout our life, we react. Because our ego has put in systems to protect you from hurt, from these uneasy feelings. And so the first thing that you do when you experience something that you feel like is an attack on yourself, or goes against whatever you believe in, you react. You can either attack, or you can sometimes withdraw, and they're both reactions, but I'm still trying. I'm still, trying my best to keep my awareness open, to notice anything that triggers me, and take that as an opportunity to really look into myself and ask myself the questions, and see if that is my truth.
It's amazing, and I don't know if the listeners, I don't know if we see what actually has happened there. I'm not even sure if you realize it. What happened with you is you are talking about speaking your truth, and then a question gets answered trying to force you to validate your truth. So you go and investigate, and you're like, well, do I have certifications? Have I spoke a bunch of times? Have I written books on this? But the validation really comes from the fact that it's actually your experience and how you perceive the world, and what you've been doing for years and practicing for years, for decades. And a lot of times we don't practice this stuff because it's so easy when a topic comes up that challenges a belief that we have, for us to just
Mm-hmm.
say, oh, that's not real. That's not for me. Like, no way, I'm just going to shut down. But because you've been practicing speaking your truth and really looking at yourself, as soon as you see something that triggers you and gets you, upset, or feel that pain in your stomach, I think you described before, then that's when you say, wait a second, what is the truth here? Because if it upsets me, there's something about it that upsets me. And you know
Mm-hmm.
what? I don't actually need to have this certification or a degree or have written 20 books to be an expert, or maybe a practitioner of a topic that's doing really well and add value to other people's life, because at the end of the day, we're all just practicing this game of life and
Mm-hmm.
doing our best to do it. And this is a technique that you've developed and you want to share with other people, because when you do expose and shed light on that piece of you that ever gets you riled up, then all of a sudden life gets a little bit sweeter. Is
Yeah,
that right?
definitely. Definitely, absolutely. I think um, one of the main purposes of living this human life is to continuously grow and expand and evolve. And how can you grow and expand and evolve? It's really about shedding light on all of your aspects of yourself and questioning that, and really finding the truth behind it. Sometimes you will find things that are true, and that they stand authentically true for you. But it's important to question everything. And I think one of the big keys to living your life in a magical way, like really, we have the ability to create the life that we imagine. Honestly, we have limitless potential as a human being, except we are we are continuously working from this subconscious, what do you say, from this subconsciously. That's how we're working, and that's how we're not able to create the life that we dream of at the moment, because it's like we're running on these patterns and we're not even aware of them. And the key to really being aware of them and to clearing them, okay, and to start creating your life from your heart, you know, by imagining how you would love to live your life, and to create that, is to actually find the stuff that is triggering you and ask yourself the questions, and be able to come up with the truth. And that's all it is, you know. And it's simple, but it's not so simple. It
Yeah.
takes a lot of practice.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's one of the things I discuss quite a bit in some of the belief hacking videos I do. We have all these beliefs that we learned in our first 5 years, really, of life. A little bit after that, but for the most part, most of our belief system, our operating system, is what we learned in our first 5 years of life. And if something upsets you, then you know that that's a belief that really doesn't serve you anymore. So
Yeah.
when you live in your truth, you're actually willing to look at those things that hurt you, so that you can change a belief around it, so
Mm-hmm.
that you can create a new belief that actually serves you at the end of the day. And
Mm-hmm.
walking your truth, or living in authenticity, really goes both ways, I think, because you might find something that excites you, and then you
Mm-hmm.
say, oh, I actually really love cats. I didn't have a cat until just a few years ago, and I always
Mm-hmm.
thought they were kind of cool. But now I have a cat, and he basically adopted me, and I realized that I love cats, and I didn't think I ever wanted really pets. So it could be
Mm-hmm.
anything from that, something that simple that served me, and I had to
Mm-hmm.
make a change in my belief system, and now it's added so much value to my life. And the same thing goes for my relationships. I realized, okay, I like, my wife to be able to take care of me in this way, or be independent in this way, and I expand on that more. But it's looking at the
Mm-hmm.
truth on both ends of the spectrum, I think, which is the things that don't serve you and the things that
Mm-hmm.
do serve you, and moving towards more of those things that serve you. Does it make
Mm-hmm.
sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And um, I was thinking of trying to compare it to something, and um, it's you it's like you want to get to this state of transparency,
Mm.
right? Where you are not functioning based on a pattern or a behavior or a belief that you've had. You're completely transparent, because you were able to clarify your whole system, to continuously find your truth, and dig within yourself to shed light on what is your real truth. And you get eventually to this state of transparent, you know. And this state of transparency, it it doesn't carry any agenda or any purpose. It is kind of like a conduit for life, or for awareness and creation to exist. So you become like a, yeah, just you can create life. You can create the life that you dream of, because you're not functioning from that place, of subconsciously creating patterns in your life. So I think, yeah, that helped me kind of to understand a little bit more, to kind of put an image to it. It's like being this transparent being that is just creating,
Yeah, I
you
really
know?
like the way you put that, as being a conduit. And we hear in scripture things like God doesn't do things for you, God does things through you. And that would
Yeah,
be that
exactly.
same exact piece of actually being able to allow this stuff to come in, whatever your experience is, without passing judgment on yourself or it. Because if you carry on those beliefs that you had from previous, and you have these previously conceived notions,
Yeah,
then the thing is going to be whatever you already believed it's going to be, no better, no worse. But if
yeah.
you actually can be this conduit, then you can actually create a brand new situation. It sounds like you're saying.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
think that's really,
exactly.
really beautiful. And so, what? How did you get to this? Like, what woke you up to this? Because I mean, when I talk to you, you always have this giant smile. You're it's amazing hair, and you're just always so happy. And even when you got triggered there, you're like laughing about it, like, "Oh wow," and thanking me for it. So what is this moment, this aha moment? Because some people, and I've been there, and I'm sure you've been there too. In one point where you got upset when you got triggered and like flipped out and lost your shit, for lack of a better term. And now it's like, well, thank you for poking me there because actually I needed to take a look at it.
Yeah, it's not always that easy. Like sometimes um, especially with the people who are very close to you, when they trigger you, it's not that easy. Like you talked the other day on one of your videos about reacting, and what you can do to stop yourself from reacting in a way that actually would make the matter worse. And it takes a lot of that to be able to practice this awareness and to step back and to actually be able to ask the questions, because by nature we kind of react. And I think one of the things that helped me was I've been reading a book called The Gene Keys, and it looks at astrology and I Ching and human design, and it plots out different genetic material that it's highlighted, because you have like 64 genetic material, and each person has different genes that are more highlighted than others. And it's a book by Richard Rudd, and I started reading about my gene keys, and one of the main, let's say, evolutionary lessons that I'm going to learn in my life is about moving from the shadow of reaction into creating a revolution, but not a revolution of fighting and attacking. It's more like a revolution of understanding. That is one of my key lessons, is to learn how not to react. And that's all I've been doing all my life is reacting. Sometimes it's really ugly. But you have to
Very
learn how to
passionate
forgive
person.
yourself. You have to learn how to forgive yourself um, before you even learn how to forgive other people, because if you don't know how to forgive yourself, you will never be able to understand yourself, and you will never be able to move from this shadow to your gift, because your biggest shadow is also actually going to be your biggest gift. And I really that really shed a lot of light and gave me a lot of perspective about it. And that's when I started to really stop myself when I felt myself reacting. And I'm still learning, still learning, but I've benefited a lot from this information, and I can see how a lot of people might feel the same way, because we're constantly being triggered, constantly. And if people would look at it from this perspective, is that this is actually, as hard as it is to believe that this is actually an opportunity for growth, because it's really difficult at the time, in the moment. Imagine how the world could change. Imagine if we didn't react to one another, and instead, we tried to understand ourselves first, and then understand other people, and to forgive ourselves and forgive other people. I think there would be no separation anymore, and there would be no wars, and there would be a pretty nice place to live in. So
You said a
yeah.
lot of things there that were just, amazing. You always hear people say you need to learn to love yourself before you can love anybody else. But forgiveness, you just apply that to forgiveness, and it's so incredibly true. And the idea of your biggest shadow being your biggest gift, and we learn the most from our biggest mistakes when we actually do take time to learn. And I think part of walking your truth is all about learning from those mistakes, but also the mistakes that are happening on a moment, the mistakes of the belief you might have.
Yeah.
And I use the term mistake, but really it's not a bad thing. It's just something that exists that we can clean up
Yeah,
and allow
exactly.
us to become that transparent being that you talk about. Let me ask you, where did we go wrong as a humanity in kind of pushing people to play pretend all the time instead of walking their truth from the get-go? Or would you say we went wrong? Or for some reason it seems like it's better to pretend than to be authentic and try to be something you're not.
I think it's a lot to do with protecting yourself from these uneasy feelings. Like your ego, um, not that the ego is bad. The ego has a function that actually helps, keep you alive during this as a human being, on this earth. But sometimes, if you have experienced at any point in your life these uneasy feelings, what happens is the ego creates these protective mechanisms so that you don't have to feel this hurt or this challenging emotion, because it's really uncomfortable and you can feel it in your body when somebody's triggering you, or you feel like a victim, or you feel like someone's blaming you, or it doesn't feel nice at all. And so to protect yourself from having to experience that challenging emotion, the ego does create protective mechanisms to to rescue you before it ever happens. So most of the time it stems from fear, like a fear of being alone, a fear of being wrong. Humans hate to be wrong. That's like one of the biggest fears.
Or not being enough or not being lovable. These are common things that we hear all
Yeah,
the time when in this kind of environment. People feel terrible
yeah.
about themselves. So you're saying that they're, you know, people are rejecting them because of their honesty and putting up walls. So that's basically why people end up resorting to conforming to the crowd. You think that's where it stems from?
Yeah, because of the fear of having to experience those difficult emotions. Um, yeah, yeah,
Okay.
exactly. Yeah.
So I'm going to actually just read something here. There's a gentleman, Barry Brownstein. He wrote a book called The Inner Work of Leadership. And he
Hmm.
said, when we are authentic, we set in motion events that compound themselves and lead to discovery and growth. In contrast, when we choose to lead a life characterized by prevent defenses, the choice we faced at 20 is here again at 30, and again at 40, and again at 50, and again at 60. And I think, we see this happen in people's lives around us much easier than we see it in ourselves. But certainly there's been issues in my life that I've wrestled with time and time again that keep coming up. And kind of what that makes sense, the way that I would explain this, and maybe you can add on to this, would be it means that simply by not behaving as my true self, I'm essentially going to be forced to keep repeating the same life lessons over and over again, like a Groundhog's Day kind of experience,
Hmm.
until I decide to either live authentically or until I die, and then maybe I get to come back and try again. But
Yeah.
if I do behave in that authentic self, then it's going to reveal my destiny and what I
Hmm.
need to be, the best possible self that I could possibly be in this existence. Um, and not only will I benefit from that, but those around me will too, even if
Absolutely.
some of those moments might be painful in coming out with that authenticity. So,
Yeah.
um, what could you add to that?
Well, yeah, that's very true, and we're all here to contribute. We're all here. We all have a unique contribution to make to humanity, and there is no competition. Every single person, I believe, on the face of this earth has a very unique contribution to life, and um, unless you choose to face, your shadows and your fears, you will not really be able to live from that authentic place, and you probably will not really find what is your authentic purpose, what is your contribution, to humanity, to the collective. And I also think that life can be such a beautiful place, such a magical place. We really do have infinite potential. We are not limited by anything, but we're actually only limited by the limits that we put for ourselves. And imagine what kind of a beautiful life we can live when we are sharing our unique gifts and being able to create the life that we dream of. There are so many beautiful things in this life and so many beautiful places and experiences to have. So that's why, for me, the most important thing in this life is to continuously find my truth, because I know that that will lead me. If I keep following this process, it will lead me to that place where I can create magic, and enjoy this beautiful life and contribute to the betterment of the whole. Because we are all connected very deeply, and we all have this very unique contribution. So for me, yeah, it's not comfortable to look at those truths. It's not comfortable. It's extremely challenging. There are some really difficult emotions that you need to work through. But if I don't do that, then we're never going to get to that point where you can, live this magic life and find your true purpose. So that is why, you asked me, why do you get up in the morning? That's the reason I get up in the morning. I want to get up and find my truth, and it's going to be hard. It's going to be hard, but I think also it can get easier the more you practice this. Again, I'm just learning. I'm no expert in this. I've had, many, many, many moments, but I'm really happy to know this information right now. And that's why I would love to share this with everyone, because a lot of people don't know. And I think that it's, it can help people to create the life that they just, they would love to live. And if we all contribute with our own unique gifts, we can create a very different world than what we see today.
Yeah, it sounds to me like rather than looking at things on this competitive base that we've been doing for centuries, you're saying we all have a unique gift. We need to sit there and uncover what that is by actually walking in our truths and actually listening to ourselves and feeling our actual feelings, and use that to empower us and empower those around us, so that we can all take those unique gifts and work in a collaborative effort rather than, trying to be something maybe we're not, or work in a way that is undermining the success that we continuously have, because we have evolved, but we also do things that undermine that evolution consistently, maybe slow us down. Would that be accurate?
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. So this is what everybody really wants to know. How can you tell if somebody's being authentic with you?
Uh, um, I'm trying to figure that one out. I mean, okay. One thing that I try to focus on is not to make it the highlight to try and find out if someone is being authentic with me, is to focus my awareness on myself, right? Because we're actually mirrors for each other in one way or another. Like if you are not being authentic with me, then it means that I need to question myself, So rather than looking at someone else, is this person being authentic? Is this person being, truthful and honest? And that is stemming from a fear, the fear of, losing something or being, victimized or whatever it is. So I think the focus for me is just always going to be on, am I living my truth in every moment? What is my truth? What is triggering me? Rather than, is this person being authentic with me? Is always to focus on myself and how I am feeling, and if anything comes up, rather than looking at the other person.
So what you're saying is it really doesn't matter if this other person's being authentic or not, because if you're being authentic and you're actually speaking your truth and you're actually living in that, regardless of what anybody else does, you're going to make the right decision for you because you're speaking and living your truth.
Yeah, exactly. Because it's always about, it's always kind of a learning situation for yourself in one way or another. And I really do believe in living your life from a place of the heart. So if I say, oh, is this person being authentic, or is this person lying to me, or is this person being dishonest, it's because I'm afraid, right? I would rather live my life from a place of love than from a place of fear. And so I don't think, I think if you get to that question, then you need to redirect that question, ask yourself a few questions.
Wow, mind blown. I think that was an amazing answer. I never saw that coming. I'm sure our listeners probably didn't either. That's such a good point because it is all a reflection on yourself, how you interpret things. So when that happens now, what are some questions? What are some things you can do to make sure that you are being authentic and living in your truth? If you haven't been practicing, or even if you have been practicing, maybe there's some more advanced things that if you want to dig, like you don't want to wait for that moment that upsets
Yeah.
you.
Sometimes you might not say the truth to someone. You might say, "Oh, I'm going out with my friends tomorrow at 8 p.m." And then you're talking to someone else, and then you can't remember what you told the first person because it actually wasn't true, And so you kind of, when you're not saying the truth, you're kind of living in this uncomfortable emotion because you can't trace back. You're kind of afraid all the time that maybe this person would find out with that person. It's not an easy flowing emotion within you. If you ever feel like there's this tense emotion inside of you, like something is stressful, something is agitating or causing like an anxious feeling within you, that's also kind of a trigger for me to ask myself, what is causing this anxiety or anxious feeling in me? Okay, is there something that I am not being truthful about to myself? Another thing that I find is if you have the need to control. If you have the need to control whether it's people or situations around you, like let's say you want to control your social media page. You don't want people posting stuff on your page because it causes this unsettling feeling within you. You're not relaxed in a state of, of transparency. Okay, then that is also like a question mark to ask myself, where is that coming from? What is that fear that I have? That I don't want, that I have this need to control situations or people around me. If you ever feel like a victim, right, or someone's blaming you, there's no victim. Nobody's ever a victim. That's like a really big trigger that you need to ask yourself some questions, because none of us are ever victims or martyrs. I guess so. Those for me are some of the the things that might give you a hint that there are questions that you need to ask yourself, whether you are living your truth, whether you are being truthful to yourself. Because when you are transparent, when you are authentic, you're just flowing. You're not in a state of unease, or you don't have any anxious feelings. You don't have any stress in your body. You're just flowing. You're just flowing. And so if you don't feel that way, then there's always something to ask yourself.
Very, very good. And I'm going to also post an authenticity test that I found online on a link here in the notes, because there's so many different levels of figuring this stuff, and it's very easy for us to say, oh, I'm being authentic, because the ego is such a strong tool. But there's a lot of times where we hold our back what we want to say, and when you hold back what you want to say, and certainly there's moments, because if it's going to fall on deaf ears or just upset people around you, then it may not make sense to say what you need to say, but you still live your truth inside. You can say, I understand, to them, but really you're saying to yourself, I understand that you won't understand what I understand, so we're just going to leave it at that. But there's a lot of really good questions out there. Like for those of you out there that are married, now, did you get married because you wanted to get married, or because you felt pressure from the outside that you were expected to get married? The same thing happens with children. The same thing happens with your job. The same thing happens with drinking, or what you wear as far as clothes. Do you feel pressure that that's what you should be doing, and that's why you do it? And this is a way that's underlining for all of us. And we all have these things hidden where we do things because that's the way it's done in our society. We get addicted to sports or romance novels or whatever it might be, and not even realize that that's not something that really calls to us. And some of us, it does call to us, and that's perfectly your passion, and you're like really into it, and that's your thing. But why are you doing it? Are you doing it because everybody else is doing it? Or are you doing it because that's what you believe is who you are and your true self? So there's so many different levels of this. And so always look at this. Definitely the biggest growth seems to come from actually when you get upset or fired up by something, and it has an emotional reaction to you. When you have that emotional reaction, like Mariam was saying, like that's where it really hits home. But just start analyzing these things, and I'll add the exam here, and you feel free to take it, because my goal with doing this, and I think Mariam's too, is for everybody that watches this and listens to this to know themselves better and feel empowered that they have complete control over their life. And this is one of the tools that have helped both of us to get there, and thousands of other people, millions of other people. But this is a very important thing. We've a lot of us have lost ourselves, and there was a time where I really lost myself and wasn't living my truth, and I felt horrible. And this is one of the ways I got out of it, and I want to give this to as many people as possible. And I think Mariam just explains this so well, and how she does this on a daily, moment by moment basis. It sounds like any second right now something could happen. Somebody could start knocking on your door and not stop, and it could start pissing you off, and you'd be like, wait, why am I pissed off at this? Before you even react to them. Would that be right?
I try not to react. It's hard, but it gets easier. And one thing I wanted to say, Ian, is allow yourself to give people the gift of your presence. But even more than that, gift yourself the gift of your own presence. To be authentic with yourself, to see yourself, whatever those truths, whatever truths are real for you, are who you are, to view yourself in a light and with unconditional love and forgiveness for yourself. And it's a really a gift that you can give to yourself, to be able to live this life in the truest way and in the most authentic way possible, is to gift yourself, the gift of your presence, of your own presence.
Yeah, that's beautiful and a really nice way to put it. However, I know that it might be hard for some people. They might have some fear in them that, being authentic is going to change the way people view them, which it certainly is, because if you're used to people being a certain way around you, you're comfortable in that area. And if you start being authentic, then some people might get upset with you and want you to be a different person. So what are some things people can actually do to help feel empowered and build up the confidence? Some exercises they could do maybe that would help them to start to be more true to themselves.
Um, I found for myself things that work are meditation,
Mm-hmm.
because it really puts you in that place. First of all, it calms that emotion down. Yeah, because when you have an overwhelming emotion, it's an extremely uneasy feeling, and it's so easy to react, and most of the time we are reacting. So something that helps is to actually step back and go into yourself, to sit in that uncomfortable feeling for some time, to go into a meditative state, because that really helps you to kind of relax, and it helps you see things from a broader perspective, like you're stepping outside of yourself and kind of looking at yourself. That's something that helps a lot. Being in nature actually helps a lot, for me. So that really helps to put things into perspective.
Now, when you're in that
Yeah.
meditative or like a reflective state on, sitting and being with that feeling, do you
Mm-hmm.
ask yourself some questions and say, okay, like something like maybe,
Yeah.
why am I feeling this way? Or what do you do? What do you
Yeah.
do?
So if I get triggered, the first thing is I try to identify where it is, like in my body. Where am I feeling it in my body? And then I ask myself, okay, why are you feeling this way? What does it bring up? What are you afraid of? I ask myself, what are you afraid of? And like the trigger that I had from one of your questions, right? I asked myself, what is this making you feel? And the answer that I got was, well, it makes me feel like I'm not good enough. That
Mm.
I don't have the experience to actually stand up and talk about something that I'm passionate about. That I'm really not good enough. That's what came up, and I asked myself, do you really believe that you are not good enough? And every time I ask myself that question is actually no, it's not what I believe. And sometimes it could be a lot more difficult, like it could be much deeper than that. But if you try to just feel that feeling, where does it feel in your body, and then ask yourself, what kind of fear does it bring up? A fear, like if this happened, what would the fear be? Like if this person left, what are you afraid of? Being alone or not being loved? Or there's always going to be a fear that stems, that goes to the origin of it. And when it gets to that fear level, it could be something easy that you're able to quickly let go of or release. Or it could be actually something a bit more deep. And at that point, like I asked, there are lots of different techniques, healing techniques that you can try to work with. But I always go with what feels right for me, because it's going to be different for every single person. So first try to ask yourself those questions. What is the fear? And if you really believe that that is truth for you. If you're not sure about the answer, then it's actually good to go deeper into that, and maybe it's good to talk with people who have experience in different kinds of healing modalities, to try and uncover like the subconscious belief behind it.
Okay, so I'm actually this is great. So the first thing, it looks like, okay, you get this this ping, and you get upset. Something happens. You're triggered, as you like to say, or poked, and then you figure out where you feel that in your body. It might be in your stomach. It could be, that's where I sense like most people seem to feel it. But sometimes I guess it could be other places in your body. You feel that location, and you feel it actually burn or whatever that sensation, how you would describe it. It might be a dull pain. It could be hot. It could be cold. Whatever it is, and you get in tune with that feeling, and then you say, okay, what emotion does this match? You know,
Hmm.
fear is one of the emotions, and it's usually one of the something around fear. Maybe define what that emotion is so specific as you possibly can, and say, okay, am I really? Then the third step would be asking yourself, is this emotion, what I'm experiencing, really the truth?
Hmm.
And if you
Yeah.
could say, no, it's not the truth, I actually don't know why I'm feeling this, I'm going to just let this go right now, then great. Then you can space your truth, let go. Maybe it crops up later in another way, but you can let it go consistently until it becomes something that never happens again. Or you can, if there's still some resonance or you're not sure how to handle it, then you can seek out various different techniques to help with the
Yeah.
subconscious belief, which, you know, there's a lot of things out there. There's hypnosis, there's EMDR, there's a lot of hacking techniques, get into that subconscious. There's your grid. There's, I think you probably know something about crystal healing in this area.
Yeah.
Is that
And also
summary?
one thing that I just
Yes.
wanted to add, the reason why I asked myself like where do you feel it in your body? Because when you ask yourself the question, is this really what you believe? If you've released it, you will not feel that same feeling again in your body. Like you can kind of test it that way
Good.
because if you ask yourself again, okay, let's say I imagine Ian is asking me the question, are you qualified to talk about this topic? Does it still cause the same feeling inside of my body? If it does, then it's something that I need to go deeper into. You know, if it's not there anymore and I'm, smiling and laughing at it, so it's gone.
So key step in this process is to check yourself and make sure it's actually, when you say, okay, I let go of this, you're going to check and see if you still actually feel that pain or discomfort in your body. And maybe you feel it and it would have been on a scale from 1 to 10 to begin with, and maybe it's down to a 5, or maybe it's down to a 2, or maybe you're fortunate enough to be in a position where you can just laugh at it. And until you can
Yeah,
laugh at it, it's like, oh my God,
yeah,
I can't really get upset about this. You're not really done with it. But
yeah,
you can release
exactly.
some of that energy. Okay, amazing, amazing. I think that's going to be very helpful. I know it's helpful for me and a lot of the people. That's a great way to put it. So, anything else that people can do to feel more confident, so that they can feel empowered to start really attacking their weaknesses and letting go of these pain points they might have?
Mm. You know, the way I see it, it is very difficult to actually look at yourself in such an open and honest way. It's one of the most challenging things. Like it's actually one of the purpose of being a human is to is to actually take the opportunity to look at yourself truthfully and be able to overcome those, uneasy feelings and challenges. Um, what makes it easier? Sometimes I feel like the support of people, like knowing that people are doing it too, helps me because when I'm interacting with someone and I'm being triggered, and that person is being triggered, because relationships will do that for you. They will trigger both ways, yeah, always. And if you're doing that process, and but also the other person is not aware of it or not doing the same, it can be difficult. It can be difficult. So I think the techniques that you talked about previously in your videos about stepping back and taking the time not to react and to kind of process these emotions helps a lot in that case. Spreading the awareness And the more people know that there's a purpose for these triggers, they wouldn't react so quickly, probably. So I guess that these are things that eventually will help us, is feeling the support of each other, standing together through our challenging moments. We're not meant to stand alone. We are not meant to stand alone. We're really meant to live in unity, I think, and support each other. And that's what communities should be about, supporting each other, especially through difficult times. It's not, you won't really need support in good times. You need support when you're going through challenging times. So yeah, acknowledging that people are all going through the same process within themselves, helps a lot. And yeah.
That's great. So I mean, enlisting others, it sounds like
Yeah.
is a big piece of it. And the funny thing that happens is it's it's like the best way to show gratitude towards a process like this is to get other people on board, and you're kind of giving them a gift. I feel like when I was taught these things, it was like I was being handed a gift that came with an obligation that I share it. And as I shared it, it actually empowered me to look at more things. And there's a ton of things that are going to be on the surface that are going to be very easy to just let go of, but there's also a
Mm-hmm.
bunch that we all have that are a little bit more difficult. So I mean, I think for me, those ones that were on the surface, getting rid of those
Mm-hmm.
first was like a really easy thing to do. And when I tried to take on something too big, I met it with a lot of resistance, and it really affected my mood. Um,
Yeah.
so I guess would be, don't bite off more than you can chew. Would be one thing that I would say to people is like, give yourself some grace. The whole
Mm-hmm.
thing. This is a process about loving yourself and who you really are, and know that you have limits and boundaries. Is
Yeah.
is is fine and completely acceptable. Do what you can do, and when you get to that point where you've done all you can do, you're going to be able to do more because you've practiced it, you've felt the empowerment that comes along with it, and enlist them other people. And as you teach them these techniques, guess what? Your life's gonna get better, and there's no better gift than to be able to teach other people things. So Mariam, I think everything you said was really beautiful, and it was a great close, and I really appreciate everything. Was there anything else you wanted to add?
Uh, no, thank you, Ian. Thank you, Ian, for always sharing your experiences and sharing your knowledge with others. And it's really all about sharing. I mean, um, I'm really grateful for that. And yeah, I just want to send a lot of love out to everyone who's really, it's hard to look at yourself in that light. It's really hard. It's one of the most difficult things is to look at yourself and, without judgment, without judgment, keeping that loving space for yourself and for others who are going through that process is not easy. But it is what makes us human, I think, and we are all connected in that way. So I want to just send a lot of love to everyone who's working so hard on themselves, um, on finding their truth, and living authentically. And that's something beautiful. So thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you for participating. Thank you everybody for watching. I'll have some links in the bottom to some of the references that Mariam had brought up, some other videos, as well as books, and kind of outlay these steps for you the best that I can. And feel free to comment and write any questions in here. We'll check back, and we'll try to answer any of your questions as best we can. Have a great day, and good luck with everything.
Thank you.
So, thank you for watching. I hope you really enjoyed and you took away a lot from this interview. I'm going to be doing several more. But before you go, I wanted to just give you a few key takeaways that I took from this video. Feel free to add your own in the comments below. But these key items really can help you and everybody around you live a more fulfilling life. Even if you have everything you want, these are the key things that I found to be, bar none, really strong and very exciting. So, for starters, when you want to be authentic, look at yourself, who you truly are. And that might mean that there's some things that you don't like. And that's okay, because the first thing to change is recognition that there are some character traits that are not perfect. And that's perfectly fine. But by actually recognizing those and looking at those and being honest with yourself, then you can actually start to make those changes. And when doing that, the second takeaway is actually to make sure that you have compassion for yourself, that you don't judge yourself. There's enough people out there judging people. And if you stop judging yourself, then you can actually have the compassion for yourself to be able to make room to make the changes and allow you to actually speak your truth no matter what anybody else says. It's so exciting to feel this way. As you apply these things, it becomes so incredibly liberating and it opens up the door for new, exciting possibilities. You don't need to be certified. This is my next takeaway here. You don't need to be certified to be an expert at something. You've been living your life. You know your life better than anybody else and all the experiences that you have. This was a key takeaway. This was actually something that Mariam got to overcome during this video, is that you don't need a doctorate or bachelor's or a master or some certification from some other place to be able to talk about your experiences and your story. You've overcome adversity. You've overcome many challenges. And the more that you make these small adjustments, you'll have more of those challenges to be able to share with others. So part of walking in your truth is recognizing how powerful you are and how creative you are and how much you've already changed. By doing this, you're really going to be able to live a bold and inspiring life. You don't need permission to speak your truth. And if the people around you don't agree with that, then it might be time to start changing some of those individuals. Another key takeaway is this is a process. It unfolds consistently. Don't expect to have it all fixed overnight. And actually don't expect to ever be done with this. As you uncover the things that are really important to you and really walk the walk and not just talk the talk, you're going to find more and more things that appeal to you that may or may not appeal to the peers in your group. And that's perfectly okay. You are the master of you. You are the boss of you. And it's up to you to make those decisions. And it's perfectly okay that other people might not agree with them. They don't have to. You can choose the path that you want to walk. Now, another big key takeaway was having a state of transparency. You don't want to have an agenda with any of this, any of these outcomes. You really just want to seek the truth in things. And if you seek the truth, you'll speak the truth, you'll walk the truth. So you don't necessarily need to have a certain outcome, except for that you are being authentic with yourself. This helps incredibly, knowing this, that you don't have to worry about other people judging you or judging yourself, because at the end of the day, you're being completely transparent, and with the truth as you understand it is such a strong pillar to stand upon. And then your final takeaway, the biggest trigger, the things that upset you, the things that Mariam also refers to as shadows, these parts of your personality are hiding in. These things that upset you the most are often the keys to unlock your biggest awakenings, your biggest strengths. So when you get upset by something or something hits a nerve, that's when it's really time to take a look. And instead of getting upset outwardly, look at yourself inwardly, reflect on those things, and you'll find that they're often the biggest gift. Have a great day, and best of luck on your journey.